Chapter 11. The Secrets of Adafa. Begin all acts and thinking by using Al-Haadi All. Tablet 1. Will. The story of Adafa, son of Jarad. 19 times 11 equals 209. Lo. Let us speak to you about the best of my students. He was called Adafa, who is called in tones Anuk, or Enoch, in rhythm Idris. He was the son of Silham and Jarad, who was the son of Malaleel, who was the son of Canaan, who was the son of Enos, who was the son of Seth, who was the son of Cadmon, who was son of Autumn and Lilith. He was faithful as the sea, and he was born of the earth, yet his soul lives in my house, the garden of Malakut. He could call every star by his name, and he knew every Anunnaki by their name, be they Sarufat or Garubat. He was born in the land of Cadmon near the two Niles, just beneath Havilah and just above Cush. Adafa, son of Jarad, begat Methuselah at age 65. He lived to witness 365 years. Adafa's wife was named Taliba, and Taliba was the daughter of Jarad's brother Salhan. Methuselah, at age 187 years, begat Lamech, who in tones is called Lamech, but in rhythm he is called Lamech, who lived to be 182. This Lamech is not to be mistaken with the Lamech, father of Tubal-Cain, who bore the seven curse. He begot our son Utnapishtim, who is called in tones Nuach, and in rhythm Nuah, from the times of the rain and the flood. He is also known as Ziasudra. Methuselah was mystified about his father's death, so when his time came, he refused to die, telling Israel that he couldn't until he knew what had happened to his father. Only a newsbearer could tell him. So at 969 years of earth time, he waited for our servant Utnapishtim of the agreeable seed. The newsbearer Utnapishtim was born to Lamech, the son of Methuselah, in 1056. 3 years later, the perfect and noble Adafa walked into the realm of Elyon-El. Utnapishtim spent much of his youth, up to the age of 13, with the venerated Methuselah, explaining Adafa's translation up through the seven heavens onto Malakut. Dissecting his name in the original language, we learn about the character of this man. Adafa, who was called Enoch, meaning one who studies, and Idris, from Darasa, to study, and Darasa, to instruct, teach. Hence, Adafa was a student of the Anunnaki or extraterrestrials. He studied like an Anunnaki, even though he was born in this Tiamat Earth. It was indeed an extraterrestrial plan, or simply Plan ET. The Master of Wisdom. He was known as the Master of Wisdom because he studied all the tablets and collected all of the writings onto the pages of Cadmon and the records of things that went before him from the tablets to scrolls. His mission was to convert and turn the people of Cain, living in the land of Enoch, the disagreeable seed, back to a peaceful way of life, now called Al-Islam, those from the seed of Cadmon. The people of Cain spent most of their time sinning and suppressing the truth. They travelled from the city of Nod to the city of Enoch, being of the disagreeable seed, singing and dancing. Elyon-El made them migrate to a very powerful city called Nod, then many other names. It was the home of the 200 Garubat who fell to earth, headed by Halal, son of Shakar, who had 1/3 cast out of Malakut. Adafa was first to fight in defense of Elyon-El, the first to write with a pen on scroll from the Enuma Elish, and the first to sow. As a mortal, he devoted his whole life to obtaining paradise, but he did not rush towards death because he devoted his whole life to doing good in earth. So by leave of Elyon-El, one of the 24 elders once appeared to Adafa in the form of a very beautiful virgin as a test to see if he could pass what no mortal has been worthy to pass before. Adafa's test. So come with me, said the disguised Anunnaki, and you shall do any acceptable work of Elyon-El, for my younger sister has been carried off by the unrighteous descendants of Cain, the disagreeable seed, who lived in the city named after Enoch, son of Cain, trying to mock the master teacher, who has confined her in the furthest regions of the west by the agreeable of your sword. I humbly implore you to help me to deliver her. So Adafa of the agreeable seed put on his sword and took a bow, and with a wedge walking stick he followed her from daylight hour to shadow hour through the desert and desolate areas. Saying not a word, he looked not upon her with seductive eye. At shadow time he erected a tent, and he laid on the stone ground at its entrance. She offered to share her tent with him, and he replied, "If you have something to eat, give it to me." She pointed to a sheep which was roaming through the desert without a keeper, and he said, "I prefer hunger than theft. The sheep belongs to someone else." The next day he approached and continued in his journey. Adafa followed the virgin, and he uttered not a word, and he complained about nothing. As the dust period approached, and he was nearly overpowered with hunger and thirst, they found a bottle of water on the ground. The virgin took it up and opened it. She beseeched Adafa to drink from it, but he refused, saying, "Some luckless person has lost it, and they will return to seek it." So during the shadow hour, Adafa had eluded all the wiles of the virgin, who had eluded to draw him near to her while she insulated the tent from the severe of the climate. So Elionel caused a spring to gush from his feet, and a date tree to rise up with choice fruit. So Adafa invited the virgin, whose name was Baru-Wi'il, to eat and drink, and Adafa went and concealed himself and hid behind a tree awaiting her return to the tent. After a long interval of time, she didn't come back. He then stepped into her door and said, "Who are you, singularly maiden? Who are you? These 2 days you have been without nourishment, and are you even now willing to break your fast? For Elionel has miraculously supplied us with food and drink, yet you are still fresh and blooming a dew rose in spring. Your form is full and rounded like the moon in the 19th shadow hour, despite our abstinence." The elder Metatron answered, "I am the aider of the Anunnaki deaf, sent by Elionel to test you, but you have conquered. So ask now, and he would assuredly fulfill your greatest wishes." Adafa replied, "If you are the aider of the Anunnaki deaf, take my soul." "Death is bitter," she replied. "Do you desire to die?" Adafa then answered, "I will pray to Elionel to translate me once more, so that after the terror of the grave I may serve him with great zeal." Metatron returned to himself and said, "Will you then die twice? For your time has not yet come. But pray now to Elionel, and I shall execute his will." Our servant Adafa beseeched his Rab Sustainer, "Permit Metatron to overcome me so that I may taste the sweetness of death, then recall me soon to life. For you are truly El Shaddai, the Almighty, and El Rahim, the Merciful." So Metatron was ordained to take the Ruach soul of our servant Adafa, and at that exact moment to restore it to him. Adafa wanted to see Malakut of the heavens, so after attaining divine permission, the journey was on its way, leaving the physical plane and entering the plane of force. Metatron took a handful of pollen and threw it in his face, irritating Adafa's respiratory system. Thus, the pollen caused Adafa to sneeze in the plane of force above the physical plane, thereby exhaling his very soul. At this moment, the Anunnaki captured the soul of Adafa. The Anunnaki took Adafa's soul on a journey through the 7 heavens. After showing him the above, he then returned him to the 4th heaven called Malakut. And later, when Adafa's soul was ready to return to his body, the Anunnaki said, "Inhale." And Adafa inhaled his spirit, making his body and spirit one again. And Adafa exclaimed, "It was great." Ever since this sacred occasion took place, many people of our seed have suffered from pollen. As the spirit embraced his flesh, he requested that the Anunnaki show him hell, so that he might be a warner unto mortals about the spiritual realm that is below the earthly realm. For he would be able to tell the sinners of the terrors that would surely overtake them if they continued to embrace wickedness and to rebuff righteousness. The elder Metatron led him to Malik, the keeper of hell, or the key to the pit. He seized him and was in the act of flinging him into the vase, when Murdoch, head of all the Anunnaki from Malakut, exclaimed, "Malik, beware, harm not the newsbearer Adafa, but show him the terror of your kingdom hell." He then placed him on a wall which separated hell from the abode of those deeds which merit neither hell nor heaven. The State of Bayna. These are the people who are caught in between, in what is called the state of limbo. These are the disembodied spirits, which houses the souls. When a person dies and his soul has not yet reached total perfection or total imperfection, he is caught between transitions. It's called the transitional state. They are trapped on the earthly realm as lost spirits, running from the 10 unholy spirits: Thamuel, Khadijiel, Safariel, Kath, Uziel, Tajarani, Harab, Thayanil, Jamaliel, and Lilith, who seek to torment them day and shadow hour. So he was about to see all the variety of scorpions, locusts, reptiles, the vast flames of fire, the boiling oils, the pickled fruit, the rivers of blood, the red-hot chains, the torturous pits, and so many other torments prepared for the torture of the sinners, when he pleaded with Malik to spare him the agonies of hell. So he was once again co-signed to Metatron. The 200 fallen Anunnaki. Our servant Adafa was sent as a prophet of the Elohim to the children of Cain, who had succumbed to the temptations of the 200 fallen Anunnaki. Invested with the robe of prophecy, he was given the power of working miracles so as to bring them back to the right path, but none followed him. In spite of the guidance which was sent to the descendants of Cain, a section of the community of Cadmon's nation, they continued to walk in the path of wickedness because of the hardness of their hearts, so the exhortations of Adafa of the agreeable seed had no effect on them. Anu is El-Rahman the Yielder, and El-Raham the most merciful. The Yielder the merciful, he is constantly sending guides and warners to lead mortals to the truth and the path of righteousness. The warner for the children of Cain. Adafa was appointed warner for the children of Cain, who lived in a land called Enoch, named after Enoch of the disagreeable seed. This is narrated in the 30 tablets of Adafa, wherein he taught them 72 different principles. Our servant Adafa was successful in laying the foundation for 100 towns, and establishing divine precepts in countries suitable for all, as well as for those who were native to the land. He appointed 4 Anunnaki men to be his helpers. They were the 4 sons of the 23 elders: Aelanus, Lanus, Ascalanas, and Yaa-Nun. Unfortunately, as time passed, people began to worship these wise men as deities. These elders possessed an abundance of universal knowledge, which was bestowed upon them by Elyon, being once Etherin, incarnated in the flesh. These Elohim returned to their etheric state. By traveling with this knowledge throughout the cosmos, they helped to maintain the universal's rhythmic harmony. Our servant Adafa invited people to the true faith, which is the oneness of Anu. He also urged mortals to deal justly and to leave the abode of superstitions and falsehood, for these will surely lead mortals away from salvation. Our servant Adafa ordered prayer and fasting at certain periods, and similarly, he was given the power to wage war against anybody who tried to destroy the peaceful way of life, now called Al-Islam, not to be mistaken with the Mohammedan cult of these days and times, broken up into many denominations and sects under the guidance of the disagreeable ones. He zealously fought against the children of Enoch's nation from the land of Nod and Enoch's disagreeable seed and descendants of Cadmon, because after the violation in Gan, the enclosed garden in Eden on the earth realm, many of them strayed and indulged in all forms of intoxicants, claiming that these intoxicants were lawful because the earth yielded them to Enoshites. Such is the case with smokers of hashish, cannabis sativa, the cocoa plant, or the 20 and 6 family of the Papaveraceae. But what are those plants that are harmful to Enoshites, poisonous? Would the fool partake of them as well? Adafa asked. The answer is yes. The fools amongst the mortals will seek all forms of mental experiences, desiring to evade the moral daily responsibilities and even call it religious ritual. Such are fools, and fools do what fools do. Adafa, servant of El. The people were instructed by our servant Adafa on how to set up sacrificial offerings and how to sight the new moon. Because he was so in tune with the other worlds, he was constantly teaching about the relationship of Enoshites to the universe, for he was our first astronomer, who was teaching the ancient sciences of ancient biology that was accepted in those days, on up until the universe changes. Writing and tailoring were also first introduced into the society by our servant Adafa. Always remembering the beauty and power of Elyon El, he worshipped his creator 12,000 times a day. He was always in tune with the celestial bodies, and he constantly talked with the Anunnaki extraterrestrials. As I, Adafa, revolved around the skies, I restrained Saturn for 30 days, and I became acquainted with the truth and the necessities of the upper realm. I have ascertained the secrets of the invisible world. Adafa was on the mothership, one of the many motherships that visited the Earth's realm from time to time with the masters or extraterrestrials. Blessed with the ability to prophecy, Adafa informed the people of the number of news-bearers who would be born and sent into the world. He also taught them about the coming of Utnapishtim and the flood. Adafa was in tune with the celestial beings that originally erected the pyramids. They are visitors from other galaxies. One of the great pyramids was built to preserve all of his friends' texts during the period of the flood. As previously stated, Adafa was born in the lower part of Tamaray, also called Kemet or Egypt, in Havila, Nubia, and he travelled throughout the world. When he returned, the Most High exalted him to an elevated station. In the 30 pages of the Scroll of Life, in the Sahufat Shil Kadmon, pages of Adam, it states that it was preordained that he would be granted life in paradise. The Sixth Realm. But once, while visiting the tranquil and resplendent sixth heaven, a realm set aside for those who have never defected in the way of Elyon El or slipped from grace, the agreeable Anunnaki Zarufat and the disagreeable Anunnaki Garubat, who also occupied this esteemed plane, questioned him as to why he was dwelling on this heaven, which was designated for the elite. The Anunnaki of the disagreeable Anunnaki Garubat were unyielding with their cynical questions, for they assumed Adafa to be Kadmon, who was beguiled by the treacherous Halal and consequently fell from his exalted position. After undergoing the anguish that was delivered by the unknowing Anunnaki, Adafa's heart swelled and he began to weep. Murdoch, the leader of the Anunnaki, descended from the seventh heaven, which was before the seven veils, before Elyon El, and instructed the Anunnaki concerning the plight of the mortals on the planet Earth, and by leave, he directed three Garubat of the Anunnaki, Azza, Azaya, and Azael, to descend to Earth, so that they could witness the tribulation suffered by mortals. After a short period of enduring the temptations that were allotted to Kadmon's progeny, one Anunnaki by the name of Azael begged to return. Upon ascending the heavens, the Anunnaki was commanded to apologize to the noble newsbearer Adafa for prejudging his nature, and he was enjoined to say, Anaya Jed Basaf, I am very sorry. Because this event marked the first time one being had to apologize to another, these words echoed throughout the heavens. It was foretold that all apologies between man and man would come with grave difficulty, and seldom without the word but, which is a subtle retraction. Our servant Adafa yearned to meet the omnipotent nourisher. He often meditated on death, the walking on the straight and narrow path, and the length of time he would have to remain underground awaiting his resurrection. So Adafa eventually requested permission to enter paradise without intervention, so he aspired that his Ruach soul should leave him before the great deluge. Each day he became more devout in tafulat, prayer, and his good deeds exceeded the merits of all people of the world who qualified to ascend to the heavens like the Anunnaki. Israel learns about Adafa. When the Anunnaki Israel, son of Anu and Id, became aware of this servant's nature, a desire arose in him to become associated with Adafa, so he sent his aide Metatron. He obtained the permission from Elyon El to descend to the planet Earth in the form of a beautiful woman. Adafa became his most intimate friend and aide. But as the Anunnaki refrained from eating and drinking, our servant Adafa began to perceive that he was not from the human species of the realm of Nasut. This was when the Anunnaki revealed himself by saying, I am the aide to the Anunnaki of death. When upon Adafa inquired if he had come to take his spirit, he said, I have come to visit you, being we are ever so proud of you and your disciple Shaykh, and to whom we give you the greeting of the Anunnaki, peace be upon you. Adafa asked if he could see what death is, and the Anunnaki of death, having the power by leave of El, took possession of his soul. By standing in front of him and breathing out of his nostrils, he removed his soul out of his nostrils, the same way it was placed in his nostrils. Sneezing is the violent discharge of air through the nose and mouth. It is described as an upper respiratory tract cough. A large amount of air is inhaled, 2 liters. The glottis space between the vocal cords closes off and the body tries to force air through it. Intrapulmonary pressure, which is pressure within the lungs, increases as much as 100. The pressure in the chest cavity is increased, and as a result, the membranous back wall of the tracheal windpipe collapses when the glottis is suddenly opened. The difference between atmospheric and interpulmonary pressure drives air through the passageways because the trachea has been narrowed by the collapse of the membranous back wall. The velocity of air is great. Adafa sees Sheol. Then Israel translated Adafa's body. Adafa requested that he show him Sheol, also known as Sijin, and Kanergi, meaning the land of no return, which is known to you all as Hell, from the German goddess Hel, goddess to the furthest section of the Niflheim, a northern land of ice, mist and darkness. The entrance of Hell's area is guarded by a dog of the most foul and uncouth behaviour named Garn, and after this, Adafa entreated him, manifesting before his eyes the wonders of paradise, from Middle English paradis, from Old French, from Late Latin paradisius, from Greek paradisios, garden, enclosed park, from paradise, from Avestin paradisia, enclosure, park, parry, around, and Desia wall. And by the command of the glorious creator Anu of the universe, and of the heavens Enlil, and of the hell earth Enki, ruler of the lower world, Adafa, he was seated on the wings and was transformed from body to soul. On the wings in a ship of the Anunnaki of death, so that he could arrive at the heavens and lastly paradise, where he spent an hour contemplating the rivers, the fruits, the prepubescent maidens, and the blessed abode paradise, speaking with Hatin, the extraterrestrial record keeper of Ilion. After some time, the Anunnaki wished that our servant Adafa would return from the garden, but Adafa, being aware of the state of the world, sat under the tree of life and refused to reply. While seeking refuge under this tall tree, he resisted all questions from this guide, saying, "Unless the creator of paradise removes me, I shall not leave this place. I shall not come out of here until the omnipotent, glorious creator of the universe orders me to do so." The Anunnaki yelled so loud that all the hundreds of thousands of Anunnaki called out all the names of all the people that were born. As they called out, each leaf of this tall tree lit up, which bears the name the green tree, or what is known to some as the lote tree, of the tree of certainty, and the strong winds of their voices blew the many leaves to the ground of all that were to die in the great flood. This is the same tree of the 100 bows in the midst of the moon circles. Meanwhile, El Shaddai the Almighty sent Murdoch to speak between both of them. Adafa asked about death, and the Anunnaki replied, "Every individual shall experience death." Adafa continued, "I have eaten of the poisons of life, and accordingly none of you will partake of it. I descended to hell, and according to the command of Elionel, the Most High, the Highest, and I witnessed the concern of the inhabitants of paradise. Then the divine injunction arrived, and by my permission he entered, and by my permission he acted. Leave him, for the right is on his side. Our servant Adafa was raised to a higher place, so he was taken into paradise, where he worshipped Elionel in the 6th heaven with the Anunnaki, and they all continued to do what Elionel commanded them to do, until predestination overtook him. So he entered into heaven with the aid of Metatron, in a ship called Sham, and he questioned El-Rab the Sustainer, and El-Rab the Sustainer answered. Our servant Adafa was immediately separated from his body and was conveyed to the heavenly temple, and he was appointed to worship Elionel in the company of the Anunnaki. Originally, time was measured by the moon, and there was 354 days in the earth year. Our servant Adafa was sent to prophesy for 57 years after the ascension of Cadman to a higher life. He received 30 pages, and all the doctrine exactly with the teachings of what Cadman received. He had knowledge of the secrets of the heavens and the realm of the spiritual, and how to travel from galaxy to galaxy. He was also called by many the father of spiritual teachings, or Sufi, Essene, Magus, and Freemasonry today. He was well learnt in the sciences of the arts, human nature, the existence of the interterrestrial and outer celestial beings, and the rotational formation of the planets. The physical appearance of this great prophet was very unique. Picture in your mind a tall, slender, very dark brown complexioned man with a thick moustache and beard, high cheekbones, and a strong muscular bone structure with a thin layer of skin to clothe it. He spoke very slowly, but his words meant so much. He was always silent, and he had his eyes raised towards the heavens, except when walking, when his eyes were cast downward. He always looked like he was meditating on something, and when he spoke, he moved his pinky finger. Being once asked how a good opinion may be acquired, he replied, by dealing honestly and civilized with everybody. He also asked, what are the greatest blessings? 3 in number. Meekness in the time of anger, liberality in the time of death, and compassion when in the possession of power. He also said, he is wise who despises not 3 classes of men: his father, the scholar, and the friend. That is our son Adafa. He is of the truthful. And as for Sheol and his 200 sons or Garubat, the breach took place prior to the flood of Utnapishtim Noah, and they manifested in a physical form that their incurable disease would be apparent to you. For now you see him, as well as feel him, as he lives in your midst. For on the day of standing, you'll have no excuse for loving him and his. And we too came down, and placed our seed in the daughters of mortals, that we may establish a kingdom on earth, as it is in heaven. 23 Sarufat first. His dangerous nature makes it imperative that we arrive at an in-depth understanding concerning the ancestry of people, for we must recognize the specific realm of activity assigned to each being, the leper, and our children of many hues and colors. Many are deceived into thinking that this includes the devil's children, and it means that we fashioned you on earth in the likeness of the most precious garden with all sorts of beautiful flowers. At the end of the strain is the leper and grafted germ. He is a deceiver who calls himself good but is not, for he is a temple in which his father Sheol dwells. He will come out of the 4th son of Utnapishtim's 2nd son Ham. His seed will be known by their lack of colour and their leprous disease, cursed from the very day they are born until judgment day. Don't mix your seed with Cain's children, the black devils, nor the sons and daughters of the 200 Garubat, the pale devils, nor the children of the graftation, the Hulab, not even the cursed seed of Canaan, who manifested in Utnapishtim's time, who is called Noah, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth.